Hello and welcome to my channel, Making Crafts. Today I'm going to be creating a little fall Halloween mini album, and this one uses a file folder, and it's a very quick and small album. This one I'm thinking, it would be great for just some quick photos that you took for your Halloween trick-or-treating or of your children in their costumes for their Halloween party. And so this one will have about 8 pages, but it'll have more spaces to put pictures. So I'm going to be using the P13 Happy Halloween 6x6 paper pack. And there's 24 double-sided sheets in here and 4 sheets of 6 designs. So 6 different designs and 4 of each. And so there are some very cute designs in here. You've got some background papers, but then you also have some little journaling cards, cutouts, or you could use this as a whole piece of paper. And there's lots of different little characters in here, like the little bats and the cats, and I think they're adorable. And we have the pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. And so this is just a very cute paper pack. It's nothing spooky. It's very fun and whimsical. And so I wanted to do something like that. I don't really do spooky Halloween, but I do like little whimsical things like this. So for this project, I'll also be using some paint. This is the Royal Velvet. And I want to say this paper pack came from the Rubber Buggy. This is my design team project for the Rubber Buggy. And so I am going to link to it below. So we're going to start out with our file folder, and my file folder has the tab at the very bottom, but a file folder with the tab at the top would work as well, but not in the middle. The ones with the tab in the middle I don't think would work good for this project. So then we're going to put our file folder into the scoreboard with the top of our file folder at the top of the scoreboard, and we're going to score at 4 inches and then again at 4 1/8. And then again at 8 1/2. So when you score at 8 1/2, you're going to see that the natural fold of the file folder is less than 1/4 inch past that score line. We're also going to use the natural fold of the file folder as part of our score lines. So you want to take that natural fold and put it against the scoreboard on the left-hand side and score again at 4 3/8 and then again at 4 1/2. Then we're going to turn our file folder so that the top of our file folder is to the left-hand side of our scoreboard, and we're going to score at 6 inches. Now your file folder is going to be too long, so you'll just have to keep moving it up until you can score all the way across at 6 inches. So once we have our score lines in, we want to start folding on them. And since the score lines are approximately an 1/8 inch apart, or one of them is a little bit more than that, it's going to be a little difficult to fold on them, but just work with it. I'm using my metal ruler along with my bone folder, but you could use your bone folder and work your way all the way down, or just use any straight edge like that to work your fold line. And so when I do get each fold made, I'll press it with my bone folder and then I'll do the next one. But you want to be sure that you don't flatten this. You want that little 1/8 of an inch in there as a little spine, so that it'll hold the bulk of your pages, like the embellishments and the pictures that you're going to add and different things like that. You want it to have a little bit of room for it to grow. And so I'm just going through and I'm folding on all of my score lines. Now the one in the middle at the natural fold of the folder is probably the easiest one to do. The other two are a little hard, but they're not too difficult. It just takes a few minutes to work through it. Now I am using the just basic file folders. They do make a heavy duty file folder. I did try this with the heavy duty file folder and it is a lot more difficult. So if you have the cheaper, lighter weight file folders, it's better to use those for this project. So now that we have those folded, we're going to go in and cut out our scored lines at the bottom of the file folder. We're not going to cut all the way to the top. We're going to leave the top alone and we're just going to cut at the bottom. And so for the first pocket, I'm going to make that a diagonal pocket. So I just use my ruler to draw a diagonal line. No measurement needed here. Just make the pocket the size you want and then cut it. And then I'm going to go back through and I'm going to cut off all the score lines in between. So it'll be about 1/8 of an inch that you're cutting off. So you don't want any of those score lines left. That way when we fold our pockets up or back, there's no bulk in there that's going to cause the pocket to bind up. So you just want to do this for all of the score lines at the bottom of our folder. And these will either be flip ups or pockets. So now we're just going to flip up the first two flaps. So on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, those flaps we're going to put up out of the way and fold our folder up a bit so we can put it in our paper trimmer. The two middle flaps that are hanging down, we're just going to leave those down, and we're going to put the fold line where we folded everything up at 2.5 so that our pockets are 2.5 inches tall. And then we are going to just fold our flaps in the direction they're going. So you're going to rotate. Your triangular pocket's going to go towards the inside, then you're going to flip the other pocket under, then one over. So it's just here I'm showing you how the pockets are going to go, or the flip outs are going to go. And so then we're going to fold our entire album in an accordion fold. Now here I'm showing you it's folded backwards, so when I do complete it, I will fold it the other direction. Once I decorated it, I realized I wanted it folded differently, and you can do that once you decorate it. So now I'm going to go in and just paint around the edges. You do not have to paint the entire file folder. All you need to do is paint around the edges so that we're going to cover it with paper, but you're going to have like a 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch edge showing around each piece of paper. So you want to go in and you just want to paint your edges so that it all matches. And keep in mind for your pockets which way the pocket is going to fold, so that you paint the correct spot in so that when you cover it with paper, you don't see the manila file folder. There's no need to paint the inside of these pockets since they're going to be glued shut. You're not going to see those anyway. And so then we're just going to flip it over and we're going to do the exact same thing. Now when you're painting it, you want to make your paint lines go all in the same direction. So once I had completely painted all the edges, I did change my mind about how to paint it. So I started out with a paintbrush, and I noticed that you could see a lot of the paint lines, no matter, even though I tried to make them go the same direction, I could still see the paint strokes of the paintbrush, and I really didn't like that. So I came back with a makeup sponge, and I just dabbed around the edges with that, and then I did take and just swipe it up and down. There were no streaks left, and I really like how that turned out. So now it's just time to start adding our paper to the folder. So for the first piece, I just cut the edge, and I'll show you later how I did that. I just used the edge of the folder as my guide to cut the edge. And I had gone ahead and cut the edges of this paper before I started filming, but later on in the video, for the back side, I do have to cut the edges. So when I go through and cut that, I'll explain how I did it. I just used the edge of the folder, and it's very simple to match the edge of the folder's shape to your paper. So for the first piece of paper that I cut to cover this page, I cut it at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. So it's 3 3/4 wide by 5 3/4 tall. And then once you have that glued down, then you can glue your triangular pocket shut. And so for the triangular pocket, I did cut a rectangle at 4 by 4 1/4, and then I cut right down the middle, used my paper trimmer to create the triangle. So then for the next sheet on that page, I cut it 4 1/4 wide by 5 3/4 tall. So all of them are going to be 5 3/4 tall because it is a 6-inch tall book. And then the width of each one is a little bit different. So for this one, I cut it at 4 inches wide by 5 3/4. And then once I put it on, I can glue my pocket shut. You don't want to glue your pocket shut before you put the papers on because you're going to have a hard time. You'll have to cut your paper smaller because you'll have a hard time getting it down into the pocket. And so then for the piece of paper on top of my pocket, I cut it at 4 inches wide by a little over 2 1/4 inches tall. And this was just one of the scraps left over from a piece of paper that I cut for this piece of paper here that I'm gluing down. I just used the scrap from it. And so this piece measures 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. Now when I do glue these on, I'm trying to line all of these sheets up at the top so everything looks even at the top of the book. Because you're going to have the pockets and stuff covering up some of the bottom, but the top you want all the edges to be even or as close as possible. So then once I have this side covered, I just start decorating, and I'm using some of the strips and scraps left over from where I cut down these pieces of paper and the paper. I've gone ahead and cut the paper for the back as well, and those measurements will be the same. You just, when you flip it over, you'll just use the same measurements that you used for that size, for that page of the front. I have went ahead and fussy cut a bunch of the pages apart that comes in the 6x6 paper pack, and so I'm going to just glue some of the fussy cuts down, but then some of the decorations I'm going to pop up. So I wanted a little bit of dimension, but I didn't want everything popped up, and at the same time I didn't want everything flat. So I'm just going to vary it. Some will have foam tape while others will just be glued flat to the pages or the pockets. And I love these little candy corn pieces that were on one of the pages. And then here's a little spider from one of the pages, and I'm just going to pop him up on the pocket as well. And so for the pocket here, I think I'm going to add another pocket to it. And then I'm just arranging all of my decorations. And here you can see I'm using some of the scraps left over from where I cut some of the pages and pockets down. I'm just going to lay everything out before I glue it down. And I like to do that. I like to lay everything out, take a look at it, see if it's like I like it, and then I'll start gluing down. So for the pocket here, I'm adding a pocket on the front of the pocket. And this is just one of the little journaling cards that comes in the 6x6 paper pack. And then I'll just add some of the little candy embellishments to the pocket. And then for the jack-o'-lantern and the kitten here, I'm going to just pop them up. And like I said, some things will be popped up and then some things will be glued down. But one thing I tried to keep in mind was when I was popping things up on the pages that you could add photos to, I tried to leave it so that you could slide the photo up under the image. So if like this little cat here, you can slide pictures up under the top of the cat and the jack-o'-lantern, and then you'll see later on when I add the banner up at the top there with the bat, I'm just going to glue at the top so that you can slide a photo under there and glue it on if you'd like. So I try to leave it open that there's plenty of room to add photos to these, but also go ahead and add the embellishments. And so here I'm just going to put a little tuck spot because you could tuck a photo in there. And my thoughts about putting these journaling cards as pockets is that you could add dates and names to these journaling cards so that when you add the photos, these little journaling cards could actually be little plates where you're putting the name and the event or the date that whatever the picture has in it. And I thought that would be a nice way to document your Halloween party or your Halloween trick-or-treating or trunk or treat or whatever that you do for Halloween. So then I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing to the back, and all of the measurements for the back are the same. We do have the flip down page, so I'll give you the measurement for those since those are different, but everything else you would just flip it over and use the same measurements that you did for the front. So now for this flip down pocket, this background piece, I cut it at a little over 4 1/4 by 5 and, well, not quite 5 3/4, 5 1/2. So it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 because it's a little shorter than all the other pages. And then I come back with another piece of cardstock and I'm just gluing it down to the flap, and that was the easiest way for me to cut it to the shape of the flap, is just to glue it onto the little tab and then cut around it. I thought that was easier than trying to mimic the shape any other way. And once I do trim around this and before I decorate it, I will go back and add a little bit of the purple paint to the edge of the tab. So for the inside piece of this flip down, it is the same as the front. You're going to cut it at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So now for the next page, I'm going to show you here, I'm just tracing around the edge of this piece in order to get the edge to match the edge of our file folder. So all you need to do is line the top of your piece that you've already cut to fit the page. You're going to line the top of the piece of paper to the top of your file folder, and then the left-hand edge to the left-hand edge of your file folder. and then you're just going to trace that design on and trim it out, and that way you can match it up very easily to the edges. And so you have 4 edges on your file folder like that, or 4 edges that you're going to have to cut like that, because we cut the first 2 on the front, and then here on the back you have each end, the left hand side and the right hand side, and it's very simple just to trace it and cut it. And then we're just going to add all of our papers just like we did the front. And then once we have all of these added, we will start adding our embellishments and all of our decorations and extra pockets. So here again, I'm showing you how to add the paper to the back side of your file folder, trace it, and cut it. So now I'm just going to go through, I'm going to add pockets, embellishments, and decorate this little mini album up. So here is the completed mini album, and I really love how it turned out. So I'm going to show you how I decorated it up, and all of the decorations came from the 6x6 paper pack. It's just fussy cuts that were in the paper pack, and then I've used scraps and things to make pockets and belly bands. So for the first cover or the first page, I went ahead and I popped up some of the images where some of the other images are flat. I didn't want everything popped up, but I didn't want everything flat either. And then I've created a belly band here just using a piece of scrap paper from where I cut down some pages. And then this is 2 of the little cut aparts cards that's in the 6x6 paper pack, and I just added those there. And so for the first page, I think we may have done this page together in the video, and I've just, like I've showed you there, I popped up some of the images and then some are flat, and I just like that dimension like that. And then I put 2 of the journaling cards inside of the pocket here, and then I've added another pocket here along with a little tag that I created using just leftover scraps. So I took all my scraps and I made tags and different decorations for this little mini album, and then I've just added another one of the cut aparts to the tag. And then in the video I show you that I added this little bat and the banner. And so then we have the pocket here along with 2 of the little cut aparts that are like journaling cards. They're just miniature journaling cards from the paper pack. And then I've added the little cat and the candy. And then I made, with the scraps, I had some leftover white scrap paper from another project, so I made like a little journaling card, or you could add photos to this. And then I've just decorated the front using some of the leftovers from the paper pack. And then I've added just a little banner here, so, or a little tuck spot, I guess you would say. So you can tuck things under there, and I just glued it at the top. And then we have our cat and jack-o'-lantern. And then we have the little paper clip that I just added a ribbon to hold the next page together. So then on here I have inked, I used the white webbed background paper, and then I've added some of the purple ink to it and then some of the candy. So here we'll flip it over, and you can take this paper clip off and this will flip down. But I wanted to have the paper clip on it just in case I wanted to use it sitting up. If you did that, then it would fall over. So the paper clip helps keep it closed when you have it standing up. So let's just take that off, and just I've added some more cupcakes and candy there, and then I've added a pocket here along with some more tags that I created, and then more decorations from the paper pack. So then here this page is fairly plain. I feel like this would be a great page for a photo, but you can also tuck it up under here. This is just a tuck spot, and I did use foam tape up here, but it's still a tuck spot. And then we have our decorations on this pocket, and I've created a little tag using more of the fussy cuts, and then just some white cardstock. And then I've made a little banner from the scraps, and I've added this little wording from the paper pack, and it was a circle. I've just cut the edge of it off and added it here. And then we're back to the beginning. But let's go back over here. I don't think I flipped this down to show you. So this flips down. And so here I've added the pocket and some decorations, and then just a little journaling card there. But you could tuck a photo in there. I think that would be really cute. And then I've made another little tag or journaling spot here using, some leftover scraps. Oh, it opens this way. I'd forgotten. So it opens up like a little book. And then I've made another little paper clip using some of the fussy cuts from the paper pack. And then this one is not a tuck spot. This one is not either. It's just a decoration there. And you can see the candy. And so then we just pin it shut And then we have, so I'll just spread it all out so you can see the entire book. So here is all of the pages on this side. And then we can just flip it over. And you have this side. So I really do like the idea of setting it up on a shelf somewhere. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that it inspires you to give it a try. It was a lot of fun to create, and it's the first time that I've really painted in one of my mini albums, but I really love how it turned out. And that is a new option for me, is to paint the background paper of the file folders. I had never tried that before, but I really love how it turned out, and I think that it really added to this journal by having the purple versus the manila folder color. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.